That's generous.
That's not. Yeah. So it's my fault this time. Plague struck again, and guess who gave it to him?
I'm not dead yet.
We are better. Not fully recovered, but better. We have a voice.
Yes. Something like that, at least.
This year is really getting on my nerves.
I just can't catch a break in the health department.
Yeah. Needless to say, the house got a good scrubbing and cleansing and purification, and yeah.
Yeah.
And is that?
Sorry. I wound up purging all the cookies and all that with everything that I was doing on the computer over the weekend. And so
it's taking a sweet bit of time to get back onto it?
Yes, but I'm almost back. I didn't think it would take this long. Hey,
the cookies need to be purged.
There we go.
You want to silence us?
We are silenced.
Okay.
All right. And hello, Patrick.
Yes, hello.
Yes. Yeah. We're okay. Okay.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're both about a week deep into the antibiotics.
I finished mine. You still have a little to go.
How does that work? I thought you got yours just the day before me.
No, I got mine 2 days.
2 days before? Oh, okay. Because I got 2 days left.
I got mine on Easter, so.
I thought I got mine Monday. Oh, well, whatever. We digress. So, yes, just funk, whatever it is. Don't really know for sure, but it basically had both of us down for the last week.
Yeah, it had sinus infection, cold. Didn't have flu because we didn't have a fever.
Mm-hmm.
But it was something respiratory that just knocked us both out.
Coughing, hacking, sounding utterly delightful.
Wishing for a new set of lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun.
But here we are. We can talk again.
Yes.
Yeah, but
in the meantime, we got our new website up. So if you haven't checked out hauntsofrichmond.com, go check out the new site. That was one of the things we've been working on.
Yes, that was one of the big things. So, yep, the new site is up and running. We think it looks utterly delightful.
Yes.
I'm very happy with how it turned out. So, we did hire a consultant for it. I am nowhere near as nifty with the websites and all that to have developed something that looks as nice as this.
Very animated.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, it looks good. But yeah, I'm going to be able to manage it. But yeah,
we needed help with the design.
Developing it from scratch. Yeah, that was not.
That's not our forte.
Yeah.
What did Marcia say about my sick time?
When you're sick, time doesn't matter.
Oh, God.
Yeah, well, because everything just feels like forever at that point.
Yeah, the number of times I've been sick this year.
You really haven't been well since we got back from Florida in January.
I really haven't, yeah.
Yeah, so, anyways, we do digress.
Yes.
So yes, it's been 3 weeks now.
And I'm sorry, that's all my fault. I will take full blame for that.
I was not up for going on last Monday either.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. But we are going to be back again next week as well. We're going to do back-to-back weeks just to stay on schedule,
yes.
such as it is for us.
Yeah.
So tonight we have for you Celebrity Hauntings Part 2.
So this one's a little interesting, whereas the last one they were actually hauntings by celebrity ghosts. They're not all going to be that way this time.
Yeah, it's just ghost stories associated with celebrities. Maybe the celebrity themselves is the ghost. Maybe it's a celebrity experiencing a paranormal thing. But yeah, so we got some fun stuff to talk about on that. And then just quick preview. Next Monday, we are going to be doing Haunted Mexico.
Yes, because Cinco de Mayo.
So, yes.
So I figured Haunted Mexico was appropriate.
Yes. So.
And I got to tell you, there's a lot of stuff in Mexico. Between the mythology, the deities, God, there's just so much. I literally will probably have enough for like 4 scripts.
Looking forward to it.
I mean, I literally have like this much for a ton of places, and it's probably enough for 4 scripts.
Does our first Monday in May have to become an annual?
It might have to become a Cinco de Mayo thing.
Just like we've been doing an annual Irish one in March.
Yes, and a Victorian ghost
and
stories.
And Christmas ghost stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well, we shall see.
Yeah.
First, we got to get through next week's episode.
Yes.
And first, before that, we got to get through this week's episode. But real quick, just a quick heads up about what we do have coming up.
Mm-hmm.
In just over 2 weeks, well, maybe almost 3 weeks, we do have our next John Marshall House tour.
Yes, on the 16th.
I think that's right, the 16th.
7 o'clock.
Yep. So if you want to come on out and get spooky with us at the John Marshall House, you got that going on.
And we might actually have some new evidence because there will be an investigation between now and then.
Yep. So we'll see what's going to come of that. And, well, other than that, we do have tours running or available every night. So nothing going on tonight. It's still just a Monday in April. Uh-oh, here we go.
It started.
Anyways, so we'll go ahead. We'll dive right in. I say dive right in after we've already been chit-chatting for several minutes. But
any comments we need to address before?
Marcia says that you caught her lungs this year.
I did.
And she doesn't.
I don't want them back.
She doesn't want them back.
Okay, who are we sending them to?
How about you just burn them?
But they would make a lovely gift to somebody.
Let's not. All right. So people love stories about celebrities. Some tales make them more relatable, while others can serve as an inspiration of what a person might be able to achieve. Then there are the accounts that will be interesting no matter who the subject might be, and they just get bonus points for involving a famous individual. Tonight we have a grab bag of celebrity ghost stories for you, some about the paranormal experiences of celebrities, and some where the celebrities of spirits have decided to linger on for reasons of their own. And to start off, we are going to, of course, head to LA.
Because
Celebrity Central out there. And in the hills above LA sits a 1930 house that was once home to one of Hollywood's biggest stars. From the outside, its stone stairways and towering turret make the house look quite charming. But the real history of 9820 Easton Drive is truly grim and grotesque. Commonly referred to as the Harlow Burn House, the home gets its name from the original owners, actress Jean Harlow, and her husband, movie producer Paul Byrne. Harlow lived in the home in the early 1930s and married MGM writer and director Paul Byrne in the house's living room. Howard Hughes helped Jean Harlow shoot to fame in Hollywood in the 1930s. He hired her to be the star of Hell's Angels that was being converted into a talking picture, and Harlow quickly became Hollywood's original blonde bombshell. On film, she eluded a smooth, sexy attitude. Jean, who never dated her fellow actors, shocked the Hollywood community when she became romantically involved with Paul, and the MGM executive, as Paul was short, slight of build, and 22 years her senior. To be clear, in several accounts of their courtship, it is stated that Harlow pursued Byrne and not the other way around. The couple married in 1932. Rumors began to spread that their relationship was a tumultuous one. Allegedly, on the second night after returning home from their honeymoon, Byrne flew into a rage and savagely beat the actress in the home's downstairs bathroom, damaging her kidneys. While there is never any excuse to justify such actions, some insinuate that Byrne was a closeted individual and that the violence was a boiling over of his frustrations. Just 4 months after their marriage, on a night that Byrne was alone at their house, he was found dead by the butler. Jean had stayed overnight at her mother's house. Byrne's body was found lying on the floor dead from a bullet wound. He had bled all over Jean's white bedroom. His body was drenched in Harlow's favorite perfume. A suicide note was found in the bedroom. The note read, "Dearest dear, unfortunately this is the only way to make good the frightful wrong I have done you and to wipe out my abject humiliation. I love you, Paul. You understand that last night was only a comedy." Later, an employee of the home, Davis, the gardener, stated that it was not Byrne's handwriting. Burns' secretary, Mrs. Harrison, said she felt it was murder. There was also a female bathing suit and 2 wine glasses left with a blood spot at the edge of the swimming pool, so it appeared Byrne had entertained someone at the home after he had sent Jean to stay with her mother a second time in just 2 days. Curiously, Harlow was not called to testify at the inquest into Byrne's death. Right after the murder, the police were told she was too hysterical to undergo questioning. Several accounts state Harlow supposedly tried to commit suicide after she heard the news. The butler, after discovering the body, actually called MGM before the police, so the studio execs, Louis B. Mayer and Irving Thalberg, arrived first to the scene. At one point, Mayer even took the suicide note in an attempt to protect Harlow, but the man in charge of the studio's public relations, Howard Strickland, convinced him to turn over to the police. Sketchy, sketchy, sketchy.
And unfortunately, that thing happened quite a bit.
Yep. Quickly, rumors spread that Byrne had not committed suicide, but had actually been murdered by his unstable ex-girlfriend, Dorothy Millette, who he still supported financially. She committed suicide after his death. So was it a suicide, or was it murder? The mystery was never solved. Some insist that it was Harlow who pulled the trigger, killing Byrne, or perhaps even her vengeful mother. Harlow moved out of the house soon after, and it was sold to a family known only as the H family. Tragically, Harlow died at just 5 years after Byrne's death in 1937 at the age of 26 from uremic poisoning. This will be tied back to the alleged beating that Harlow suffered at Byrne's hands, ultimately resulting in kidney failure. Whatever the case, Byrne wouldn't be the last owner of the home to suffer an untimely death. When the H family moved in, they had bizarre experiences on the very first night. Mrs. H felt an unseen presence and heard someone softly whisper in her ear, "Please help me," in the hallway outside the master bedroom, and it only got worse from there. The lights in the kitchen would repeatedly go on and off. Heartbreaking sobs of a woman could be heard in the living room. Unexplained wind drafts were felt throughout the house, and a light knocking on the front door was often heard, but no one was ever there. The H family soon fled. In 1963, the house was sold to celebrity hairstylist Jay Sebring, who a year later began dating aspiring actress Sharon Tate. Though the couple eventually split, they remained extremely close friends until tragically on the night of August 9th, 1969, they were murdered by members of the Manson family cult. Sebring, along with the coffee heiress Abigail Foster and her boyfriend... What? Folger? Oh, what did I say? Foster. Abigail. Sorry. Folger and her boyfriend, screenwriter Wojciech Frykowski, had been staying with Tate, who was 8 months pregnant. At the 10,050 CeeLo Drive home she and husband Roman Polanski were renting at the time. And while the horrific events that night did not take place at the Harlow Byrne house, an alleged interview with Tate from the year before her death suggests a chilling connection to the home. In 1970, Fate magazine published an article titled Sharon Tate's Preview of Murder, which included an interview between Tate and journalist Dick Kleiner. In the interview, Tate recalls an eerie encounter that happened one night while she was staying alone at Sebring's house. According to the story, Tate, staying in Harlow's old bedroom, awoke to see the apparition of Paul Byrne. He was not aware of her and instead wandered around the room, apparently in search of something. She quickly left the room. As she walked down the stairs, she stopped halfway down. She was shocked to see Sebring's apparition now tied to the stair rail. He was bleeding from several slashes to his throat and appeared to be struggling to stay alive. The article speculates that the encounter wasn't just a dream, but actually a premonition predicting her and Sebring's heartbreaking fate. Though Tate's family and friends vehemently deny that she ever had any such premonition, the article has led many to believe that perhaps the ghost of Paul Byrne returned to the home as a warning of what was to come. People who have lived in the Beverly Hills home in the decades since have reported no further disturbances or untoward incidents. So perhaps the spirits of 9820 Easton Drive have managed to find rest. Or maybe they lie dormant, waiting for the next cursed individual to enter this home with a twisted past.
Part of me would like to go see this place, but at the same time, knowing how sensitive I am, I don't want to be there.
No, I don't think that would be good for you.
No. Any comments?
No, nothing about the story.
I know, Marsha said to launch my lungs into orbit.
Actually,
and
nuke them from orbit.
Back down to Earth or while they're in orbit?
I don't know. Let's just send them to space.
Okay.
That works.
Can't breathe out there. Anyway, we're going to move back to Joan Crawford's house in Brentwood, Los Angeles. American actress and screen legend Joan Crawford was one of Hollywood's highest paid starlets. Crawford was one of the most prolific actresses of her time, with a career spanning almost 50 years, including many major films of the era. Still, as a fairly typical of Hollywood, at her advanced age, her career started to wane. Nonetheless, Joan continued acting on low-budget horror and suspense films up until her death in 1977. However, Joan had a dark side. She had a reputation as a perfectionist and was difficult to work with. She also had a tumultuous and sometimes abusive relationship with her adopted children. Joan's daughter, Christine, would grow up telling the simply horrifying stories of dementia and extreme physical abuse at the hands of her mother. Later, in 1978, Christine would author the book Mommy Dearest, which gave people a view inside of Joan's life. Not everyone shared the dark viewpoint of Joan. Some of her colleagues and friends recalled a warmer moment between Joan and her children, but they would also note another darkness swirling around Joan, her children, and their home on Bristol Avenue in Beverly Hills. Their home started as a modest cottage home, but over time, Joan expanded it and renovated it to a 2-floor mini mansion. From the 1940s through the mid-50s, people would report shadow figures, cold spots, and feelings of extreme dread. These events were reported by Joan's children and by visitors to the home, including the veritable who's who of Hollywood's great of the era. On at least 2 occasions when Joan lived there, a living room wall would spontaneously combust into blue flame. Twice, Beverly Hills Fire tried in vain to find the obvious electrical cause. None was ever found. It also seemed that when Joan went away from her house for long periods of filming, her entire mood and demeanor was different. It was when Joan came home that a complete change of her personality occurred. Joan never sold the home after marrying Pepsi-Cola CEO Alfred Steele in 1955. Though she preferred to stay mostly on the East Coast, after her death in 1977, the home was sold, first to several well-known celebrities before gradually sliding into a more normal existence. Almost every owner cited strange happenings, including seeing Joan's ghost, playing billiards with an unknown male specter, dressed in 1930s period clothing. As late as the mid-1980s, the infamous wall fires would still occur, and the owners would sometimes report children's voices crying in the walls as well. Multiple exorcisms apparently attempted by the new owners never said whether it worked or not.
Sorry.
No, I mean, I never found that answer, so.
No, yeah.
But considering there's been multiple ones, I'm going to say at least several of them didn't work.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment.
In the previously read memoir, Mommy Dearest, by Joan's daughter, Christine, she wrote that the home was haunted by malevolent spirits, that whenever something strange happened or a ghost appeared, she'd fearfully try telling her mother, which only led to further punishment. She reinforced these claims through multiple interviews over the years as well. In 1989, Christina did an interview for a book called Hollywood and the Supernatural by Sherry Hansen Steger and Brad Steger. The following is an excerpt from this interview. I have vivid memories of some things, but when you're severely abused, you tend to block out other things. I'm positive there were manifestations occurring when I was little. I saw them. There were places in the house that were always so cold that nobody ever wanted to go in them. As a child, I was always told I had an active and vivid imagination. I was always scared by things, but people just told me that I had an active imagination. Years later, I thought, oh well, maybe it's good to have an active imagination, and I became a writer because of that. But as a child, I saw things in that house. There was, of course, no context or framework in which to put what I saw and felt. I had nobody to speak to about the occurrences.
Anytime I would become extremely frightened and I would get out of my bed to try and find somebody, I was always treated as though I were just being a bad child that didn't want to go to sleep. I always expressed my fear to my mother because it was she that I went to find to help me, because I would be very upset and I'd be crying. I used to have terrible nightmares and that kind of thing, but a lot of it had to do with the fact that I saw things at night. So the solution to that finally was just to leave the lights on everywhere. One of the things I saw seemed like an apparition of a child or children, but as I said, I may have blotted out a lot. Christina told us that she had not been back to the house since she was 17. That was when I went to college in 1956, at which point Crawford still owned the house. Christina recalled her last day there. I remember the woman who had taken care of me and my two younger sisters since I was four years old just watching me without saying a word. I was going from room to room in the house without saying anything, just standing in the middle of each room, then going on to the next one. She finally asked me what I was doing. I told her that I would never see this house again, therefore I was saying goodbye to it. Many years after I had left, we met again. She was now an elderly woman and had retired. We always had been quite close. She told me she had always remembered the look on my face when I said my goodbyes to the house. It seemed a strange thing to do, to say, I'll never see this house again, when at the time there was absolutely no inkling of the house being sold. In fact, it was not sold for another 2.5 to 3 years, and indeed, I have never been back. Christina had learned recently that the current owners of the house had called in the Reverend Rosalind Brynner of the Healing Light Center to work with the house. Rosalind described what she had seen in the house when she went there. She picked up on some things that astounded me because they seemed to validate what I have seen and experienced when I was little. It gave me goosebumps when Rosalind told me that she discovered so many spirits in the house and there had been signs of ritual abuse in one of the rooms. Many of the spirits had underworld connections. Later in the interview, Christina noted, "It would not surprise me in the least if the haunting that is in the house is Crawford. She was capable of real evil. If you have never experienced that look from another human being, it is almost impossible to believe that such an experience could even exist. I think perhaps that's why so many people are unwilling to deal with the shadow side, because they can't really get themselves to believe that such a dimension exists." The authors were also able to contact the Reverend Rosalind Brynner at the Healing Light Center, who shared her own thoughts on the home. It's true that the house was afflicted with spontaneous fires, primarily in the wall behind where Joan Crawford's bed used to be. However, I did not pick up that Joan Crawford's ghost was there. The Reverend Brynner expressed her opinion that the house had been poisoned in some way before Crawford had moved into the place, but that the evil in the house had added to Joan's neuroses. The actress had apparently built into a pre-existing cottage in a very chaotic manner. "Nothing is where it should be," Rosalind commented. She added dining rooms and hallways that led to other dining rooms. It all combines to form an H-shaped house. Turn a corner and you're lost. The noted healer, who in this case served as an exorcist to clear the home, said that she found the haunting existing in levels. It was a place of conspicuous negativity. I called it an astral central, a gathering of spirits that were attracted to the negative vibrations. People had been tied up and tortured in that house. I picked up on gangland figures, corrupt politicians. There is an area in the house where a child, not Christina, had been tortured and molested. Terrible things went on in that house. The Reverend felt that ghosts themselves were trying to burn the house down. Once the Beverly Hills Fire Department spent 4 days there attempting to solve the mystery of the spontaneous fires that would break out in the walls, she said. I feel the spirits were trying to burn the house down to protect some horrible secret. There's something hidden there. I'm certain that there are bodies buried in that basement. She said that there had only been one reoccurrence in the house after she had exorcised and cleared it. The house had become an astral dumping ground, but it seems clean now.
Bless you.
Oh, thank you. And so it has been since. In the last few decades, the once haunted mansion of Joan Crawford seems to have found peace. Unlike our health. Yeah, and Patrick does say with the design of the house, it's a little reminiscent of the Winchester house.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely very much reminiscent of that on a smaller scale for sure, but...
I mean, Sarah had a purpose. She was trying to confuse the spirits.
Yes.
But this one didn't seem to have too much purpose to it in its confusion.
Rather haphazard, if you will.
Yeah. And we all know ghosts don't care for construction.
No. Not unless you're restoring it back to what it was when they were near the place.
Yeah. All right, so...
Thank you, Patrick.
So we're going to go to Memphis, Tennessee, which is a place that Chris and I visited in June?
Almost 3 months ago.
Yeah, almost 3 months ago.
It was beginning of February? Or was it the end of January?
It was beginning of February.
Yeah.
Because we went Paracon to conference.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about the Orpheum Theater, which we got to see while we were on the ghost tour with Historic
Haunts Memphis.
So definitely go and check that out. But since 1977, the Orpheum has been the Mid-South home to touring Broadway productions. The Orpheum's 2 venues also host performances by Ballet Memphis, various concerts, comedians, summer movie series, a family series of educational programs, and local culture and community events. In fact, when we were there, they were hosting a dance competition for the kids.
Yes, yeah.
Since it first opened in 1928, the Orpheum has dazzled patrons with its architectural details, from the artisan millwork to the gilding and the original fixtures to the mighty Wurlitzer organ. It's truly a gem at the heart of the city. Saved by the Memphis Development Foundation in 1977, the Orpheum was one of the first buildings in Memphis placed on the National Register of Historic Places. In decades since, the Orpheum has undergone more than a $15 million in renovations and improvements to maintain its status as a world-class performing arts facility. The modern Orpheum Theater was built as a replacement for the city's original Grand Opera House that had burned to the ground a few years prior. It opened on November 19th of 1928, the original site of its predecessor. The Orpheum could seat just over 2,300 people, making it twice as large as their predecessor, but change was quickly approaching. Vaudeville's popularity waned. The Orpheum shifted to running first-run movies in 1940 and was renamed the Mulco. And in 1976, the theater closed as multiplex theaters were proving more lucrative than large single-screen venues. There was talk about demolishing the theater, but that's when the Memphis Development Foundation stepped in. 54 years had taken its toll on the Grand Theater, and the Orpheum closed on Christmas Day of 1982 to begin its $5 million renovation to restore its 1928 opulence. Beyond the cleaning, decorative and lighting changes, significant improvements are made to the heating and air conditioning and other essential facilities for operation of a modern theater. The work was completed and the theater held a grand reopening celebration in January of 1984.
In the last several decades, the Orpheum Theater has never looked back. They have continued to invest in the facility and have drawn a long list of major theatrical productions and world-class entertainers to the stage, always offering the leading edge of theater and entertainment technology and expanding their mission to include community and educational programming. In addition to all of the modern amenities of the beautiful and historic Orpheum Theater reside numerous tales of strange and unexplained incidents, convincing many people that the theater is quite haunted. One of the Orpheum's most famous patrons is Mary, the ghost of a 12-year-old girl. Stories vary about how Mary's spirit came to stay at the Orpheum, but most suggest that she was injured in an accident. Our friends at Historical Haunts Memphis told us the story of Mary when we visited them this past, it was January. My bad. In any case, a few months ago. So, Mary had been attending a performance at the Orpheum in 1921 with her parents. After the show, she danced or ran out of the theater and into the street. Unfortunately, it was at the same moment that a trolley was passing by, and the trolley struck Mary. She was brought back into the theater to be treated, and she passed away inside. She very much enjoys being at the theater in the afterlife and watching the shows. Seat number C5 is reserved just for Mary.
Mary has consistently been described by witnesses as to have braided brown hair and a white dress, and she's a little shy. Countless times over the past 50 years, performers have noticed a little girl that looks like a school uniform wearing a school uniform that's sitting in a side box in the mezzanine. Her blank stare and unique thrill appearance have upset some of those who have seen her, yet Mary is never known to have disrupted a performance. Memphis historian Vincent Astor, along with other researchers and patrons, have claimed to be aware of as many as 6 other spirits inhabiting the Orpheum, including a male known to some as David, who is waiting to escort Mary to the other side. Since she refuses to leave the beautiful old theater, however, he can't leave either, and therefore is spending an eternity in the theater with her. Others include an unhappy spirit as referred to as Eleanor in the foyer of the balcony. Astor described a cold feeling in the balcony like putting your hand in a tub full of raw liver. Ew. But that does not believe that Eleanor is a malevolent spirit.
Okay.
That's just a very graphic description.
You.
Stories abound about flickering lights in the theater, doors swinging open and shutting loudly, even events that even spooked Yul Brynner while rehearsing The King and I in 1982. The story shared by our friends at Historical Haunts Memphis is that while Yul Brynner and his cast were rehearsing, things would go missing. Props, costumes, etc. Brynner was known to have a gift of communicating with the other side, and cast members asked him if he could reach out to the spirits of the Orpheum to see what was going on. So he stayed out late after rehearsals several nights, and many of the cast members wanted to stay with him to do a seance, but he refused, saying that if they wanted him to contact the spirit, he would do it alone. Oh. Please don't become a spirit.
Wrong pipe, sorry.
According to him, he had several conversations with Mary, and she was enjoying the rehearsals very much, to a point where she wanted to be in the show. He explained to her that if she kept making items move or disappear, the show would not be good for the audience members. After that, Mary
We're a pair.
would just watch from the audience. When asked in an interview later on about his conversations with Mary, Yule would just say, it was private. He wouldn't disclose anything else Mary and he had discussed. Ghosts have a right to their privacy, after all.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
So, Yul Brynner.
Yul Brynner.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a fascinating story that when they told us about this, and I started to research, and apparently his mother had the gift too.
Oh.
I have to wonder.
Friends in the family?
Yeah, I have to wonder if the sister had it, but he did say that his mother had a gift to chat with the dead.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you get a chance to visit Memphis, be sure to take in the Orpheum Theater.
Yeah.
We didn't get to go inside.
Yeah, because again, the dance competition was going on.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to. Hamilton was coming in a few weeks after we left. I was like,
But, say it would be maybe another time, another trip.
Somebody on the table.
Nico's being Nico.
Nico's doing cat things.
All right, so one more short story from Memphis before we move along. This one more of a supernatural versus outright haunting. It's an unfortunate fact that Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April 4th, 1968 at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis. Today, the site is home to the National Civil Rights Museum, drawing people of all backgrounds to learn about the history of the racial equality movement and inspiring them to bring positive change to the world. One such person who visited the site was actor Alex Desert. Alex has an impressive portfolio, including...
Take out a tail.
including extensive voice work for Marvel Studios and The Simpsons, and countless appearances on TV shows since the 1980s. He was in Memphis for work and decided to check out the exterior of the museum in the early hours before it was open. It was quiet and there was no one else around, so he took the opportunity to approach the spot of the assassination. As he stood at the railing where MLK had stood, he experienced what can best be described as a step out of time. For a brief moment, the area around him was alive with the people of 1968, all going about their business and focusing on their day ahead, including MLK and his entourage. All was fine until the gunshot, at which point Alex was ripped from the moment and thrust back into the current day. Alex shared that moment with our friends at Historical Haunts Memphis, one of the many personal tales that they have been able to collect over the years.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we talk about sometimes very intense emotion gets laid down, and you can imagine a man who's about to give a speech, and all the people there waiting to hear said speech. That's an intense moment, but then you add the assassination on top of that. It has laid down an imprint on that property. And even when you and I went to visit, you could feel the emotional change in the property.
Yep. It really, I mean, just even from the outside, it's just, it's a powerful place.
It is. I mean, we didn't get a chance to go inside the museum because unfortunately scheduling didn't happen, but I was very happy we got to see the outside and be able to read all the educational stuff that they had. And they're in the middle of doing a renovation.
And expansion.
So I would definitely be interested in going back and checking it out when that's done.
Yep.
So.
All right. So next up, we are going to head to New York City.
Yes.
And here we have the Dakota building, located at the corner of Central Park West and 72nd Street.
So it's known for two things. Those who are horror aficionados understand that it's actually a stand-in for the Bramford in Roman Polanski's 1968 film Rosemary's Baby.
Yep. And while the real Dakota may not be quite as sinister as its cinematic counterpart, there is plenty of haunted history in its halls, sure to keep fans of the paranormal awake at night. Aside from its role in Rosemary's Baby, the Dakota is best known, and unfortunately known, as the last residence of John Lennon, as well as the location of his murder. On December 8th, 1980, Lennon was shot 4 times in the back and shoulder by Mark David Chapman outside the building. He staggered a few steps forward before collapsing to the ground. After Lennon's tragic death, people continued to see him hanging around the Dakota. Musician J.R.R, who lived near the Dakota, claimed to see Lennon's ghost standing in the archway just a few years after his murder, surrounded by an eerie light. Other witnesses have also seen Lennon's ghost at the Dakota. Even his widow, Yoko Ono, claimed to have seen him sitting at his white piano in their apartment. According to Ono, he turned to her and said, "Don't be afraid, I am still with you."
Lennon, though, was not the first ghost to call the Dakota home. While he was alive, Lennon himself actually reported seeing a UFO from the window of his apartment. He also saw an apparition that he dubbed the Crying Lady Ghost in the hallways of the old building. From the time of its construction between 1880 and 1884, the Dakota began to accrue stories of spectral presences and strange happenings. Painters working in the building reported seeing the ghost of a girl with long blonde hair, dressed in clothes from that of an earlier time, bouncing a ball in one of the building's hallways. Later, a woman who was waiting for a friend in the building's foyer saw the same blonde girl go into what she thought at the time was a room, but later discovered it was only a closet. Actress Julie Holliday, famous for her roles in the silver screen in the 1950s, called the Dakota home in the last years of her life. After her untimely death from cancer at the age of 43, her apartment was purchased by a couple named the Smiths in 1965. They hired 3 men to repaint the walls and revarnish the woodwork. The workers felt that they were being watched. One saw the ghost of a boy about 10, dressed in a Buster Brown suit, style of the early 1900s. A musty odor accompanied the apparition, and the 3 saw the ghost that had to be the body of a male in his 20s, and the face of a young child. After the job was done, one of the painters said he was doing some touch-up work in a large closet. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, and the light went out. He groped his way off the ladder, propped open the door again, and turned the light back on. He felt something grab his arm and put it against the light bulb. Whether or not Judy had any such experiences while she was there is uncertain, but there is also a question of her untimely death and subsequent changes to the apartment that could have stirred up something dormant.
Yep. Several of the Dakota's residents have reported objects moving on their own. A couple named Frederick and Suzanne Weinstein reported hearing footsteps and other noises in their apartment, while their dining room furniture and rugs slid around on their own. One day, when Mr. Weinstein was returning home, he saw the lights of a chandelier aglow in his living room, though their apartment had no chandelier. When he got upstairs, the light was gone, but he found bolts in the ceiling where a chandelier had once been installed. The Dakota reserves its most sinister stories for the basement. Supposedly, a porter once summoned a tenant down there to show him that objects had been moving around on their own. While the men investigated, a heavy metal bar flew across the room and nearly struck the porter, landing at his feet. He reached on to pick it up, but found that it weighed too much to lift. Repairmen, electricians, and other visitors to the basement have reported seeing an apparition of a short man with a long nose and beard, wearing wire-frame glasses, a wig, and a frock coat. According to some, the depiction of the ghost matches Edward Clark, who built the Dakota, but never lived to see it completed. Perhaps it is indeed his spirit that haunts the basement of the Dakota to this day, keeping an eye on the fate of his building.
And the building really almost sounds like Only Murders in the Building, the Arconia.
It really does.
It does.
I wonder if maybe that was an inspiration.
Maybe.
I don't know. Excuse me. So, got one more stop for tonight. Tonight's episode is a little shorter than usual.
Because we knew we weren't going to be able to talk for long.
Yep. So.
Unfortunately.
Oh, and hey, Dana. Got here just a little late, but that's fine. You can go back and later on, as always, okay. You can always go back and catch
them on YouTube.
Catch them on YouTube. They're always on YouTube.
Yeah.
But then I was going to say Facebook too, but that's not true.
Not anymore.
They'll stay on Facebook for a month now.
And then get deleted.
Automatically deleted, and there's nothing we can do about it, unfortunately. So, YouTube.
Always YouTube.
YouTube is the file of record, if you will,
The
for
repository
for our live shows.
All right, so we're going to go over to merry old England, to the University of Oxford, and specifically Merton College is where we're going to start. And we're going to talk about our favorite author of the fantasy realm.
Yep, but before we even get that far, if you watch regularly, this is going to sound really, really familiar.
Because we've actually covered Merton College before.
Was the last episode?
I think so. It was our Haunted Libraries part 2 episode, which was the last one, I think.
Yeah, I think it was. So we were at, quote unquote, at this location just in our last episode, but we have more ghost stories of a completely different sort for you here now.
Let's just say Merton College has been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's quite haunted.
Yeah. So 1264.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1264. That's a long, long, long time ago. So it was founded back in that day by Walter D. Merton, Lord Chancellor and Bishop of Rochester during the reign of Henry III and Edward I. It has a claim to be the oldest college in Oxford, a claim which is disputed between Merton College, Balliol College, and University College. One argument from Merton's claim is that it was the first college to be provided with a statutes, a constitution governing the college set out at its founding. Merton's statutes date back to 1264, whereas neither Balliol nor University College had statutes until the 1280s.
So if you're going by documentation...
Merton's got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By a while.
Yeah. Just roughly about 20 years.
Yeah.
So, but only 20 years, which... Yeah, considering we're talking about the 1200s.
They got it.
It was a hot minute ago.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Merton also has had an unbroken line of wardens dating back to 1264. Of these, many had great influence over the development of the college. By 1274, when Walter Day Merton retired from royal service and made his final revisions to the college statutes, the community was consolidated at its present site in the southeast corner of the city of Oxford. The hall and the chapel and the rest of the front quad were completed before the end of the 13th century. Like many of Oxford's colleges, Merton admitted its first mixed-sex cohort in 1979, over 700 years after its founding. They would appoint their first female warden, Dame Jessica Rawson, in 1994. So it took them a little while to get there with the times.
Yes, it did.
And our respective universities
Had been with the times a whole lot earlier.
which is saying something considering they were founded in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Alumni and academics past and present include 5 Nobel laureates, the writer J.R.R. Tolkien, who is the Merton Professor of English Language and Literature from 1945 to 1959, Liz Truss, who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in September and October of 2022. And this is where our celebrity haunting comes in. With the legendary J.R.R. Tolkien authored the world-renowned stories of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings that inspired so many other authors to write their own epic tales in decades since. His academic legacy is less well known, but he did have the opportunity to directly impact many English students over the years. He spent much of his academic career at Pembroke College, but moved to Merton College in 1945 to take up the role of Professor of English Language and Literature. He had published The Hobbit 8 years previously to moderate success, and he was in the process of writing the 3rd book of The Lord of the Rings when he moved to Merton. He remained in this role at Merton until his retirement 14 years later in 1959. While at Merton, Tolkien had a study in Fellows Quad, there we go, overlooking Christ Church Meadow. After his retirement, Tolkien left Oxford and moved to Bournemouth with Edith, his wife, for 55 years. After Edith's death in 1971, the heartbroken Tolkien returned to Merton College, living in a flat that was provided by the college on Merton Street. He would pass away on September 2nd of 1973 at the age of 81. With his tweed jacket, waistcoat, and pipe rarely from his mouth, Tolkien struck an easy recognizable figure about the college. His ghost is said to be no less recognizable, and it's occasionally seen drifting along the corridors across the quads of Merton College. Later occupants of Tolkien's study in the Fellows Quad at Merton are said to report smelling the inexplicable gust of pipe smoke, as Tolkien had been there just moments before. Tolkien's legacy still carries on at Oxford. In 2013, Pembroke College at Oxford introduced the J.R.R. Tolkien Lecture on Fantasy Literature. It's a free annual event to honor the memory of Tolkien, who spent 20 years at Pembroke before moving to Merton. And the aim is to encourage more serious study of fantasy literature at Oxford University and beyond, a cause we believe Tolkien would have wholeheartedly loved.
We certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, and I just love the fact that he's still seen there.
Yes. I mean, God, there's a couple of things about just Tolkien in general that I find kind of hard to wrap my mind around. The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and also, the Silmarillion as well. I mean, the stuff that people don't talk about, everything that he published, this world that he created, is just jaw-dropping.
Amazing, yeah.
And what really kind of I find fascinating about it is that, number one, it was one man.
Yeah.
It all came out of his mind. And that it really, relatively speaking, was not that long ago.
No, it wasn't. And
I mean, it feels like it is such an epic, world between the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings.
I mean, he died just a few years before I was born, and I feel like I missed out.
Well,
you know.
yeah. But that something so epic was written in such modern times, which, on one hand, I feel a little surprised, but on the other hand, I shouldn't be surprised, because there are other amazing writers creating fantastic worlds today.
Yeah. But inspired by him.
Yeah, yes. So many of them were. I mean, gosh, the the Wheel of Time books.
Well, heck, the series I'm reading right now, that's one of, on the second one of 6.
Mhm.
And I'm just like enthralled by this entire world that I'm in right now. And it's complete fantasy.
Yeah. But yeah, there's so many authors.
Mhm.
I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And but yeah, and some of them, I mean, heck, some of them are still with us today and we're still putting it all out there.
Yeah.
Except
Support your authors.
Yeah. Except for
Yeah, I know.
Finish the Winds of Winter.
This is a little
It's been over a decade.
Yeah.
Publish it already.
ridiculous. Anyway, we're a little spicy about that one.
I'm sorry. I am spicy that they went and they finished the TV series. And
the
actually,
book's not even out yet.
yeah. And,
Okay, we don't need to go there. We don't need to go there.
Yep.
So,
Oh, Patrick, some epic stories are just out there dying to be told. It's amazing when something like the world of the Lord of the Rings comes around.
yes.
It truly is. But, yes. Support your authors. And, anyways, we hope that you enjoyed tonight. As you can tell, we're probably on the verge of giving out here.
Yeah.
But we do appreciate you, appreciate your patience with dealing with our congestedness, our sneezing, our coughing, and all that crap. Now I get to go and upload it to YouTube for posterity. Yep. Yay!
And we'll be back next Monday with Haunted Mexico.
And hopefully we will be truly better
Cross it
by
all.
then. We need to get tequila. We are not tequila drinkers, and so we don't have it in the house.
Can I have it in a frozen margarita?
Well, I was gonna say we need it for margaritas.
Yeah.
We are going to have margaritas for Cinco de Mayo.
Okay, we go get a small thing of tequila.
Yeah, we'll go get a small thing of tequila.
And we'll make sure we have margarita mix.
Yes.
Or,
Well, we'll have something.
yeah.
But yes, we are going to have
We
something.
do have frozen pineapple in the freezer. And I think some strawberries, so we could make...
Strawberry pineapple margarita? Frozen margarita?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm thinking.
I'm on board. And Beverly, yeah, pollen was bad today. Well, yeah, it's been dry for a couple of days and whatnot, but
And the wind was up a little bit today.
I wish we can't blame the pollen. We've just been sick. we started trying to blame the pollen.
And then it just got worse.
And like, no, not just the pollen. But anyways, so yes, thank you all for watching. Much appreciated. If you haven't done so already, again, check out the website. Share it if you would. We greatly appreciate it because getting people out there looking at it. Some things have changed, so Google and whatnot has to do its thing to kind of learn the new website, and people visiting it will help. So
And we will also be able to get some new blog posts up there soon too.
Yes.
We've
Yep.
been holding off on that because we knew the new site was coming out.
And honestly, the blog posts on the old site were very challenging and time consuming to put together. So yes, this new site will make it much easier. So I can spend more time actually thinking about the wording of what goes into the blog post rather than thinking about how on earth what do I need to change in the HTML code.
Yep.
So
Chris is going to start, I'm hoping, with place he visited when he was in Kentucky.
yes, that's right.
Yes,
I do
that has
have-
a Virginia connection.
Yes, I do have my notes for that. So, and also on the website, you might notice that there are links to our social media. Obviously, you're already watching us on Facebook, but we are also active on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. So links to all of those are on the webpage as well. So anyways, thank you again for watching. Hope to see you all again next week. We are going to go ahead, call it a night ourselves.
Yes.
Probably go hack up a lung or something like that, but truly, we actually are on the mend, I promise.
Get some sleep because that's important.
Sleep, yes. When you're done coughing.
Yes.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
Good night, everybody.